Perfect.
All right. We can go ahead and open it up for questions.
As far as the roster, have you guys thought about going to 15? It's allowed or staying?
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do. We certainly have talked about it as a staff. I don't know if we'll add anybody here down the stretch, or we may even bring some kids from student body in and look and see if we want to add one or two that way. So, I think we'll kind of analyze it here a little more. That's probably more likely than any right now, although maybe I shouldn't say that because you never know here down the stretch what's going to happen.
With rev share, do you even have anything left over for?
Yeah, we could if we needed to add somebody. Yep.
Yes, with the roster turnover, Dillon Hunter being one of the few remaining guys over the past season, how did he kind of handle that with all those guys graduating or transferring out of the program?
Yeah, it's different for all of us. There's a drastic, difference in our team. All we got to do is go to the first team meeting and a lot of new faces. But some of that's exciting. There's an enthusiasm that comes with a lot of new people. Dillon and RJ both, guys who've been with us, very comfortable with the staff, how we do things, know how we do things. And I think just those guys being, leaders, kind of talking guys through some things in terms of what we work and how we work and, what's expected. But, we got a good group of guys, so they're trying to please and they want to do what's right. And there hasn't been any real adversity for our guys to deal with, but it's been nice to see a couple friendly faces for sure.
Brad, you mentioned RJ. What does it say about the culture of this program, the relationship he was able to foster with you all here, that even after leaving in the transfer portal, he comes back?
Yeah, well, obviously it was a really hard decision for RJ to leave in the first place. Very emotional for he and I both, and I think we got word during the year that he had missed Clemson, and certainly we very fond of RJ and excited to have him back. He's just an incredible, positive personality. He's an energy giver. He's just one of those guys that you enjoy being around. He's got a smile on his face every day. He's a hard worker, and he's a very caring person. So, he's brought a lot of joy to everybody on our team. He's made a lot of guys feel very welcome here, and I think he has an even greater sense of appreciation for what our program and what Clemson means to him.
And in so many ways, as you bring in all these new guys this offseason, really you're starting from scratch. How much does it help having a few guys here that understand the level of expectation that goes into what it takes to build a
Yeah, I think that's one of the main challenges. It's been challenging this summer. It's just the best word to use. Because everything you're calling out, guys don't know. They're just, we've been able to call a lot of things out. We've been able to skip some steps and move into deeper, learning situations, and we're not able to do that with this group. First of all, we have, if you include the red shirts, we have 6 freshmen. So, that's half the roster. So we're extremely young. Then you bring in all the transfers. So there's just so much newness for everybody. That terminology is different, and even for older guys who have some experience playing college basketball, they don't know our terminology, and so it's been a learning process for sure. It's probably gone a little slower than I would like, but the guys have been great. They want to learn, they want to do well, they're working hard. I think most importantly, there's a kinship and a friendship that have developed with our group. I think our guys really like each other, and they're spending time together away from basketball, which I think is vital. And we're just going to have to be patient as a coaching staff, and I think this team will grow and get better. I think there's big room for improvement, but we're certainly behind where we've been the last couple of years for sure.
Talk about how young that roster is, and you talked about scheduling strategy in the past, that if you think you're really good, you schedule hard.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you got BYU, Charleston, Jimmy V Classic. Why schedule the way you did with the roster?
Well, we're trying to still give ourselves opportunities. Some of that was the nature of and there's going to be another game or two that we haven't announced that we're working on, but Yeah, we just want to give our guys good opportunities to play good people. When you get invited to play in the Jimmy V, you're going to do it. So that was kind of, taken care of. Obviously, we always are a couple of years out are in tournaments, and we got into the Charleston Classic, which has been a good tournament for us. There's a good field there. You pick up Alabama in the SEC Challenge, and there's a lot of good games that you had the opportunity to get involved with, and we certainly want to give our guys those kinds of experiences. Those are the kinds of things that you want to play in when you're in college. It speaks to where our program has been going, getting these quality games. Now, the hard part is being good enough to go win them. So we got to get ourselves ready to do that.
I think Dallas Thomas redshirted for you wanted him to gain more weight. I guess.
Yeah.
Where is he right now in terms of his progression?
Well, he's gaining weight. It's just not happening as fast as I would like. It's like I've said, he's never going to be a guy that gets heavy. He's just not built that way. I think he's put on 10 or 12, but he needs another 10 or 12 for sure. But he's doing well. He's learning how to play the way we want him to play. He's finding out how much strength is important. He's able to make some plays this year that he wasn't able to make last year, but it's still a work in progress. He's got to stay committed to that to be the kind of player that he wants to be. But it's fun to have him out there. He was on the scout team most of last year, and for him to get opportunities to play, wearing an orange jersey is good for him. And I think he's a guy who has a lot of potential to grow this season, really.
Brad, just the portal overhaul this offseason, just take us through, the season ends and how you went from that to what you have now at this year. I think it's 6.
Yeah. You first thing you do is you have meetings with your players on your roster, right? And you just try to figure out, hey, where are we? At the same time, you're figuring out what kind of dollars you have. And, guys that are returning, you're talking to them about those kinds of situations. And through all of this, you're managing a cap. We certainly knew that losing Victor and Ian, in particular, that, we're starting from scratch inside. And so we needed to go get a couple of good big guys. Obviously, there aren't as many big guys, so the market changes for those guys quickly. I think our staff did a really good job of getting out into the market and getting those guys, Nick Davidson and Carter Welling and RJ Godfrey. I don't know that we could have done any better than those three guys in the portal, and that's been a position of strength for us these last couple of years. I think it's post players have really seen how we utilize those guys in our offense, and so I think that helped in the recruiting process a lot. Certainly our recent success, but that was kind of step one, is we've got to build back some strength there. It's really hard to play with freshman post players. I mean, they're just usually not big enough, strong enough to physically compete consistently at this level. And so that was step one. And then from there, you just kind of, make decisions. And that's when we kind of made the decisions on Jake and Butta and JP and happy that we added those guys. I thought we would have some turnover with this roster. I didn't want maybe quite as much as we had, but at the same time, some other guys got offers that were for more money at other places, and decisions had to be made, and then we did the best we could with what we had, and at the same time knowing we had a good freshman class coming in that we feel good about, and I think we'll compete this year, and guys will get some minutes.
You mentioned that freshman class. Just what have you seen out of them already as they've
Yeah.
on campus?
Just that they're very competitive. I think they're talented. Physically, probably a little more ready than some of the other freshman classes we've had. Chase Thompson and Zach Foster are both, came in probably 10 pounds heavier than maybe what they played at in high school. And so I think that really helped them. Ace Buckner's kind of in that group, and he's just a competitive guy, just, strong spirit of competitiveness and wants to get after it, and probably has a slight advantage over some guys because he has been here a year. And I think that has helped him. And then, Trent Steinauer, we just always liked his energy level when we watched him. We just thought he was one of those guys that has a high motor, really runs well, and it just was it's kind of a matter of time for him to just gain the weight. Now he's done a really good job so far he's probably put on 10 pounds since he's been here. I think he's close to 222, 223, and he's played with great energy and spirit, and that's been fun to see. Blake Davidson is probably one that is more of a developmental guy that we knew coming in. He's had some knee issues, and we knew that he's going to take some time. But I think those guys have gotten a lot of reps, with Carter Welling not being available. That's kind of, really changed some things. Every once in a while, there'll be another guy who sits out and misses, and now all of a sudden, your freshmen are doing a lot, and they're being they're playing well. They're playing with a good level of competitiveness right now, and we're excited for them.
I believe you talked to Larry about this, but in regards to Carter, you still don't. You're not. There's no concerns there about this.
No,
long term.
We're hopeful that next week's our last week of summer work, that he's going to be able to come out and do some 5-on-0. I mean, he literally has not done any basketball this summer. He's just, had surgery, and he's been able to do a few conditioning things here in the last week or two, but he's not doing any jumping or, anything of basketball note, which that's been frustrating, a little challenging for the staff, because we obviously see him as a big piece, and not being able to get him integrated into our offense. We feel like we're a post player light this summer, so we haven't been able to do all the things we would like. But it's just what you got to deal with. But so that'll be kind of fun to get him back when he comes back in August and is kind of hopefully cleared and ready to go.
I guess right now, Davidson's probably the 5 who's kind of the backup.
There's no. I don't. In a lot of ways, it doesn't really matter who's the 4, who's the 5 in the way we play with our 2 post players. They can all be interchangeable, and I think between Carter, Nick, and RJ, you got 3 guys that will all play a lot of minutes at those 2 positions.
As Chase got older, he sort of started to take on that ownership, that leadership, and be one of the guys that really drove the program. Are you starting to see some of that from Dillon as one of the veteran guys here now?
Yeah. Dillon's got a big personality, kind of a carefree, fun-loving guy, but also not afraid to speak his mind. And I think that's, he's probably more outgoing than Chase, right? And now he's been on some teams where he's, been smart about just picking his spots, because there's been enough voices and other things that from some older players. But he certainly is a major voice on this team, and I don't think that he needs to do anything drastically different this year. I think his scoring will naturally evolve a little bit, but I don't need him to all of a sudden try to be his brother. They're really different players. We need him to still be the really good on-ball defender, and we need him to have great assist turnover numbers and just lead our team. I think those are his strengths, and so I think that's something that he needs to make sure that he's just doing daily, because our team needs all those things.
Been candid about the rev share situation, the fact Clemson basketball is going to get a smaller cut than other schools. You mentioned like Charleston, kind of some mid-major schools that maybe have more of an advantage too. Just that whole situation, why have you been so willing to kind of address that head on, and do you see it as a big challenge, a medium-sized challenge?
Yeah, I mean, the rev share situation, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And it is going to be a challenge moving forward. I think we're all still trying to figure it out, though. I mean, I don't think that's one thing from just being out on the recruiting trail with all the coaches. This year, maybe even more than the last couple, there's even more uncertainty in what things are going to look like. What's going to pass through NIL Go. What kind of dollars are guys going to have next year and then the year after, and there were things done by most schools at this level with front loading to try to take care of some salary things, and so it's just I think that's what has guys unnerved a little bit. Is we all want to be good stewards of our program, be organized, plan ahead, and it's hard to do that. But we'll find a way. Administration will try to help us as best they can, and I'm confident that we'll continue to be successful moving forward. But there are going to be some hurdles that are going to make it difficult for our staff, and right now, just with the uncertainty of it all, is probably what has us a little unnerved more than anything.
How does Clemson Ventures factor into the equation for you guys?
Well, I think that's a little bit of it too. Is Michael Drake and his group. We met with Michael, a couple weeks ago and had a nice extensive meeting, and I think they're trying to figure it out just like everybody else is. But they're going to be a vital part of us, helping players on our team grow our brand and hopefully help guys secure deals that we can, make situations here better monetarily moving forward. And I think that is part of what this is now, is helping young people grow their brand and understand this side of it. And Clemson Ventures certainly will be a big part of it for us.
I feel like the donor base, you've talked a lot of, cultivating that. Is that something that can maybe assuage these concerns or help you all out specifically?
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, I know they've been vital the last couple of years with collectives for sure, but this is different. Hopefully that we can find ways for our donors to stay involved. They're going to have to. I think it's a critical piece of us continuing to be successful, especially in light of some of the rev share numbers.
Dollars and cents are such a big part of the transfer portal recruiting equation now. How do you guys plan to keep the relationship piece at the forefront of fostering those relationships and getting people on campus?
Yeah, certainly the finances play a factor in every decision, but relationships are still really important. How you treat people, the kind of experience they're going to have, getting to know the needs of the recruits and their families, what are their wants and needs, and then making sure that it's the right fit, I think is really important in all these situations. Undersell, over-deliver a little bit, if you will, on some of the things. And that may be what we have to do a little bit monetarily at times. But, this is a great place. I think we've proven that guys have had some incredible experiences here. It's an unbelievable place to go to school and grow as a young person. And our staff will do a great job of continuing to work the relationship aspect of all the recruits that we get involved with. And certainly that'll be a vital piece to continued success.
Chase Thompson, how physically ready is he to play right now and compared to some other players who've got recently?
Yeah, he's further along than a lot of freshmen, but there's still a learning curve, big learning curve with speed of the game and understanding, both ends. I think the defensive end of the floor is the bigger challenge for most young players. Some of them are very naturally gifted offensive players. They're used to scoring. They're used to being successful. But defensive responsibilities are different. It's usually not coached as well, coached as hard, coached as detailed. and just the understanding as we're trying to guard as a team, and we're going to have to move as one, and there's going to be responsibilities that happen pretty quickly, and your ability to understand that and adjust, and then fight through the physicality of the level. Those are all factors, whether it's guards fighting through screens, around screens, over ball screens, big guys being able to hold their position physically in the post or around the basket area and blocking out. Sometimes younger players have more trouble with that. Obviously, the bigger and stronger and the more athletic you are, that helps solve some of those. I think some of our freshmen, are bigger and stronger physically than some of the guys in the past, maybe, and so that will help them. And we're hopeful that this group of freshmen is going to contribite.
The ACC going to 18 conference games, then 20, I guess. How do you think that would impact the ACC's, I guess, bid for March Madness?
Yeah, hard to know. I mean, it's kind of, I've been outspoken a little bit that we've got to do something, here. I do think, the move to 18 is fine. I think the timing of it might have been a little bit challenging for coaches this year because it happened so late. There aren't as many available games out there as you would like. And if you're not going to go get quality opponents, it may not do what we need it to do. Having said that, Coach Bender has been fighting really hard to, for us to find another good high major game. I think we found one. We'll see if we can get all the details worked out here quickly. But that's important to our league. Now, the other thing that's happened, wasn't aware of this, that we're going to add another game next year. So we're going to go to 32 games. So now you're looking for 14 non-conference games. That's a lot. It's hard to find that many quality games. Obviously you're going to have some guarantee games to help fill your home schedule, but it's just there's been a lot of change here the last couple of years. So we'll see what it does. I do know this. I feel like sometimes it's because of coaching changes. Some of it may be because of some of the lack of success that we've had as a league the last year or two, but I do think there are some schools out there that financially have really put, they've made changes to men's basketball and added money where you can see in their rosters are better this year. So I think our league will be better this year.
Do you think this year's portal haul is maybe proof of concept that, Clemson with the smaller rev share cut and everything that y'all have on top of that can still produce and find a good class? You mentioned guys like Davidson.
Right. No, absolutely. We have to do our due diligence. Again, I think we have a tremendous product, and, I think we'll still recruit well moving forward. I think, that combined with retention of really good players. I mean, when you look at our program, especially here recently, a lot is made of our transfers. And we've had a lot of really good players transfer in here that have been key components to our success these last 3 years or so. But if you look at our all-conference players, they've been homegrown. They've been guys that our staff has gone out and found as high school players, brought them to Clemson, developed them, spent time with them, worked with them, and Hunter Tyson, P.J. Hall, Ian Schieffelin, Chase Hunter, 4 guys have become first and second team all-conference players, which when you're talking about an 18-team league with 13 players on a team, that's, my math's not too good, but being one of the top 10 players is really hard. So we can't lose that. It's not so much about the portal that's going to solve all your ills. When those guys have come in and blended with some really good high school players that we've grown through our system, that's when we've been at our best, and I think that's still more than likely our recipe for success.
How was RJ a different player than when you last saw him? Obviously, your days spent.
Yeah. There's not any drastic changes to his game. I think he's just, older, hopefully a little he's probably a little bigger, which is hard to imagine because he's a big, strong guy. Maybe a little more confident just because he's an older guy that's been here, and I think he's just really happy and excited, and you just kind of watch that joy in his face when he plays every day, and he had that as a young player. It's something that it's been a blessing to coach him because he's such a fun kid, fun personality. But I don't know that there's any drastic change to his basketball game. I think he's still a big physical post that has good athleticism and bounce around the rim.
To kind of make sure Dabo doesn't try to steal.
We'll see. We got one more year with him, then he might. Who knows?
You mentioned the turnover from last year's roster. Dell Jones, you mentioned in another interview, was that the most surprising departure of the guys who left?
A little bit. Certainly, I don't want to say a complete surprise. It wasn't a complete surprise. But, that one was disappointing a little bit just because you put some time into a guy and, that the next year he can take another step forward for you. But that's part of this new world of college basketball with the transfer portal and money, and it's going to happen. It is what it is. It's hard.
I know you say you prioritize retention, but at this point in where college athletics is going, how much of this feels like you're just 1 year at a time? Let's worry about reshaping this roster and let's not think developmentally 2-3 years down the road.
I'm still not there. No, that's not how I'm wired. And part of why I like what I do is I enjoy the building relationships with players and helping them grow as men and players, certainly. Spending time with them and then seeing them after they're gone, and those are just some fun times you have, and I don't want to think that this is more like junior college where guys are shuffling in and out every year. I hope we don't have 10 new players every year. Now, are we going to have more than we've had in several years? Probably. But I still would like to hold on to as many guys as we can. That makes sense. There's going to be some kids leave, maybe because they're going to get more money somewhere else. There's going to be some kids leave because there's opportunity to play more minutes somewhere else. And you have to understand that. But there's also hopefully enough kids that see a good situation for them and want to continue to grow and develop. And I think that'll be what happens here more than likely.
Kind of opposite of that, you have a guy, Ian Schieffelin, who decides he loves Clemson so much he wants to try another sport. I know you've spoken publicly about it a few times this offseason, but just your thoughts on Ian's transition to football and what he could possibly bring to the football team.
Yeah, that's a hard one for me to know. I think he'll do well. I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think it is. But also, I think we all know Dabo's going to want to try to make something happen with it, which is fun. He hasn't done much yet, I don't think. So I don't have a lot of feedback to give anybody. I know they report soon. But he's excited about it. He's going to be running down the hill and against LSU in front of whatever 85,000. It's going to be a pretty cool experience for him. And my thing was always just to remind our fans that, hey, he gave some things up now. He's a pretty good basketball player. He's one of those all-conference guys I mentioned, and he was going to have some opportunities. But I think this speaks to how much he does love Clemson and how much he's enjoyed his Clemson experience, and now to get a chance to do something else cool, like be on the football team and try this life experience. You can't blame him. I mean, they're paying for him too. So, I mean, it's going to be a pretty good 6 months. And if it all goes as it could, maybe he stays with football and has a chance to do something in the NFL one day. Otherwise, he can, regroup and he'll still have an opportunity to come back to basketball at some point.
Not sure how much you keep up with, I guess, the football team, but if there's a player on Dabo's team that you would have on your roster, is there anyone that you would have on that team?
I don't have anybody right now. I don't know their basketball backgrounds per se. There's certainly some good athletes over there that could help us a little bit. It's certainly this year's team for sure.
Ray Jacobs is 6'8".
They could get some rebounds for us. There you go.
And I think today the ACC announced a change to court storming. It's like
Okay.
a structured fine
Yeah.
policy, I guess. What are your thoughts on that and just how the modified structure impact the experience for fans, your team, things like that?
Yeah, that's hard. I certainly understand it. The last thing, we want, and it's gotten pretty overwhelming. Obviously, we had a couple last year. Player safety is vital, and so I can understand why we're doing it. Obviously, those are memories that students and players, cherish, and so, that's hard. I don't know if, in our sport it's just happened so quickly that, is there a way to get the visitors out there and still let the students, get them off the court in 30 seconds and then get the students out there so that they can have a good experience with the players and let the players just, have 10 or 15 minutes out in the middle of the court when it's, when those experiences happen. It's not quite as organic, but that would still be fun. What does that look like? I don't know. I think we're going to still try to do something, aren't we, with football, letting fans off once the players get off, or football. So I know it's a big deal at Clemson football to especially for young folks to be able to go out onto the field and maybe interact with a Clemson football player.
I guess just with the rev share piece, are you already talking with recruits about that? I mean, do they bring that up? Do they know that?
It's just starting right now a little bit as we're all kind of gearing into our, 26 recruits. There haven't been as many, I don't think, as many national kids make decisions. It seems a little slower, and I think a lot of it is because all coaches are kind of unsure of, what's the money going to look like, and it's hard to plan. Think about not knowing exactly how much you have, and then you're going to give it out to some young guys, and you might need a portal guy or two at some point. That doesn't make it easier either. And I just think there's so much uncertainty that you can tell from talking to other coaches out on the recruiting trail that everybody's a little unsure of how to move forward on some things. But those discussions will be happening a little bit more as we get into into August and into September, when the 26 classes start to make official visits and decisions start to be made.
Your team's been involved in some community service events recently. Dillon gave away his shoes to a homeless guy at an event a couple weeks ago. Just from a character piece of the guys that you have in this building, how proud does that make you as a coach? Yeah,
it really does. We certainly take a great deal of pride in giving back to our community. It obviously doesn't surprise me that Dillon would give away his shoes like that. So feeding the homeless, and we took last week and gave our guys a couple of opportunities that they could choose from. And that some of them went fishing with some kids that are dealing with some very difficult diseases. I think it's good for us to just, make sure that our guys understand they have a responsibility to give back, and also to understand and appreciate what we have, our health and the lives we're living. And so we certainly do as much of those kinds of things as you can. And I'm proud of our guys. Like, they always do it. just with an open heart and really good spirit. And a lot of our kids are about that, and they do it on their own, not just when the team kind of helps set something like that up. So, but it's, that's what I mean. We have a great group of kids. We've had great kids here for a long time. It's something that we certainly pride ourselves in. The kind of program that we have, it's part of, the holistic model that you want to have, and the responsibility you have as their coach to make sure that they are involved in all different kinds of life experiences.
So one more thing about the Jimmy V, like how does that even happen? Like how do you figure out that you be in that, and what do you think about the matchup with B1?
Yeah, it happens more through the league office, and then the league office kind of contacts you, and you get invited to be a part of it. And so, obviously with our recent success, I think that helped. BYU is a top 10 team, so it's going to be an incredible opportunity. First thing is it's so fun to take your guys to New York City, Madison Square Garden. That's a cool experience and something guys will remember, and they'll be playing games in Madison Square Garden forever, and our guys will be able to look back when they're 40 and 50 and tell their sons that they played there. And those are the kind of things you want your guys to experience during their time at Clemson, and the fact that we're going to play a team as good as BYU is an unbelievable opportunity for us in terms of finding out more about our team and chance to evaluate ourselves against the best competition there is.
Your new contract has a clause being able to step down, become a special assistant
Yeah.
at the AD at some point. How did that come about in the negotiation?
Yeah, it was something I talked to Graham about just a little bit when the Indiana thing was going on, just that, that was something that I knew that Clemson could offer me that another school would not. And I'm really proud of the program we have here. I plan on coaching for several years. I told Graham, I'm not saying this because I'm thinking that I'm going to stop coaching. I could coach 10, 12, 15 more years if I still feel good about it. But if something happens and I decide not to, I'd love the opportunity to still be a part of the university. I think I can bring value in other ways. This was a decision I was making to stay here. This is probably where I'm going to finish my career. And, things I still want to try to accomplish here. And I just feel like in some way that I can still help. And so, he thought about it and obviously ran it up the chain of command. And he and I have had a lot of discussions over a variety of topics over the years, certainly beyond basketball and, things with this new world order of college athletics and just helping other head coaches. I've done that a lot during my time at Clemson with certain situations. And so I think Graham has seen that, and, it's something that I've had some interest in. So, you never know.
Did you kind of feel the magnitude of that? Saying this is probably where I'm going to finish my career. When you started,
Yeah, a little bit. It was, it was one of those things. My daughters are in Greenville. I've been here 15 years. This kind of becomes your program, and you feel like, hey, I want to take this as far as I feel comfortable taking it, where we can go, continue to grow and get better. But likely, my wife and everybody, this is where we're going to want to be. And so to leave here to do something else doesn't seem like the right decision. And, I'm very grateful to Clemson for giving me the opportunity to coach here as long as I have. It's obviously most coaches don't make it this long. And they've been patient with me during my time. I think we've rewarded them with the kind of program that you can be proud of and the kind of young men that you can be proud of. And so I just want to continue to see this place do well.
Was it a statement in itself that you're kind of pushing Indiana to the side of being an Indiana guy? I mean, did you, growing up,
Yeah.
be an important team?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Indiana job was the job. And, I interviewed for it when I was younger at Wright State one time. And I spoke with them. I was never the guy, and so that was fine. And I was really happy with what was going on here. Obviously, the timing of all those things going on is never great because you're in the middle of a hard season that's, at an important time, and you're trying to do well in finishing that. But it was just, it didn't feel right for me at that time. It just didn't. And my wife, it was just one of those things you talk about with your family a little bit. Where do you see yourself, and what do you want to do? And we just felt really at home here. I'm grateful to be the coach here.
Does that have anything to do with the fact that you live by the lake and it's
Well, I don't know that there's a million factors, right, of why you would stay here. The warm weather and the lake, those aren't bad. I don't know if they're 1 and 2, but
I think a lot of folks can relate to the idea of maybe having a childhood dream and then that dream starts to alter over the course of time. Was there a moment of clarity for you where you're like, yeah, this was something maybe I wanted a long time ago, but where I'm at now is exactly where I need to be, where I want to be?
yeah, I don't know if there was an exact moment of any of those things. It just, you just kind of know, and at that time it just didn't feel right. I'm extremely grateful to be the coach at Clemson, and I've poured my heart and soul into this place for 15 years, and there have been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. There's been everything. There's been tremendous highs. There have been, difficult lows. But through all of it, there have been unbelievable life experiences and relationships with people that have meant a lot to me, and still do. And I'd still like to keep going here, right? I'd like to. We still have a lot of exciting things happening. Obviously, the Brown family's been unbelievably generous, and now they've allowed us to build another practice facility and improve our dining situation and help the women's program with renovations to Swan. The Swan family was unbelievable to help us get this thing off the ground. It all started with commitment and support by some folks many years ago that just maybe hadn't been involved with basketball, where there hadn't been a lot of basketball support, and those people helped drive this to where we've had some very successful seasons here recently, and none of that would have happened without them. And I feel responsibility to all those folks, not just the players and the administration and our fam, but like some other folks that they've made some sacrifices in their families to help us try to grow this place and make it better and provide our players with incredible experiences and first-class facilities. And, I'm happy to say that we have all those things now.
I guess, again, with where you've gotten the program, do you advocate with administration, like, I need more rev share, or do you kind of understand what the football situation is?
Yeah, I mean, yes, certainly I'm talking to Graham and Kevin White, my supervisors, about what's it going to look like, as much as anything, because you're trying to plan, right? You have to have some direction moving forward, and it's really hard. And they're trying to find clarity too now. Like they don't, it's not 100%. So there's, we're all just trying to figure it out over the next couple years. And there's going to be some sacrifices that we're all going to have to make. And we all understand that, there's 58,000 football season ticket holders. We have one of the 5 or 10 best, college football programs, probably top 5 football program in the country. When you look at what Dabo's been able to get done here, is remarkable. And, that's a big part of the culture of this place, as it should be. Because of the success of the football program, a lot of us in the other sports have benefited greatly. And but hey, we're all competitive. We want to make sure that our situations are as good as they can be, so that we can be successful. Like we want to make sure we're doing our part. And so yeah, you're going to have conversations, but administration's trying to help everybody as much as they can. That's why you're seeing increased scholarships and the commitment that they've made to all the other sports, and that's going to give some sports some tremendous advantages. And I think we'll find a way to work through what we need to work through for basketball.
With 15 scholarships, is that even, do you worry just too many in terms of rank?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's not, it's not too many. Like, if you have the chance to give a couple kids a scholarship, that's a great situation. Again, it goes back to, well, what's that look like in terms of tying them up in the future, and what does it all look like? We're all still kind of trying to figure. This was just a weird year for us a little bit, and that we also lost several walk-ons. As crazy as that sounds, I mean, our walk-ons have been a vital part of what we do, because those guys are kind of like our scout guys, and you got guys that have been with you 3 years, 4 years as walk-ons who know how we do things, and they know their responsibilities and roles, and they're really good at being the practice player you need to help kind of go against your guys, whether it's in small-sided stuff, 2-on-2 stuff, or 3-on-3, or whether it's 5-on-5, and it just gives you extra really experienced bodies. And so it was kind of a weird year for us that way too, that we ended up losing at least 3, I think, right? So that's probably why we're a little short. If we had a couple guys, we would probably have given 1 or 2 who would have kept those guys on scholarship, or given them a scholarship, I should say.
You look at more, maybe potentially for the 14th and 15th spots, like more developmental guys. Possibly, do you find a developmental guy who wants to just try it at this level and knows that it's probably going to take a year or 2, probably a couple years to scratch out the kind of time you want. Yeah, those are possibilities as well. I think those are questions we're trying to figure out. What does that look like in the landscape?
How long did y'all and Jaeden Zackery kind of pursue any chance of them coming back before you realized it's probably just wasn't going to make sense?
Yeah, I think there was a point where we were excited about it and thought that this might work. It was really happening some during the season, and so I kind of just was letting other people deal with that. And then I think we got some word that it didn't look likely. So he, unfortunately, I'd love to have him back. Man, he was a bulldog, and he was a competitive dude. Funny, I don't feel like he said 12 words like most of the year. Like, he just speak when spoken to. I don't know. He must have heard that as a child, because like he was one of those guys that just came in and did his job, and did it to the 100%, and as competitive a player as I've had, especially on the defensive end. He's one of the rare guys that makes a tremendous impact on the winning with just his competitive fight and his ability to defend. You think about shot blockers and KJ McDaniel and guys who, there's a lot of guys that are pretty good defenders and can be pests and do stuff, but this guy could change games. So he's going to be missed.
Seeing someone like PJ Hall get a new contract with the Grizzlies, just what was your reaction to that?
Yeah, really. I'm happy for him. I'm proud of him. We talked a couple times right before he was going to go, when he got the opportunity to be with the Hornets. Obviously, when he was let go by Denver, we kind of all anticipated that was going to happen. And the chance to go to Charlotte was a cool one. And, I'm just proud of how he handled it. That's not easy, folks, to go to those situations and, you're playing for a contract.
and you're doing it in like 5 games, right? So like every game, you feel like there's pressure. But he had a good year last year. I mean, he really did. He didn't get to play much for the Nuggets, but he had a great year in the G League, and we all thought, I could tell from talking to him that he was very comfortable and confident heading into the summer league, and so I was just really happy for him and proud of him. Excited to see what he does now.
Chauncey Wiggins was another player that started over the past 2 seasons. Went to the transfer program left. I guess. What was the discussion with him on his decision to take part?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into individuals' decisions to leave. I just don't think those conversations is appropriate to air. So, we'll wish him well, and I'm sure he'll have a good year.
Anything else for Coach?
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you guys being here.